Welcome to Cosmic Potato, the Super Fan Talk podcast.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
We've got you covered with everything from Marvel to Star Wars.
Glad you asked that because I wanted to take this time to explain my evil plan.
Classic films, trivia games, and beyond.
Come out to the coast, we get together, have a few laughs.
Now, on with the show.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Cosmic Potato, the Super Fan Talk podcast. My name is Sean Ray, and I'm not really sure why everybody's suddenly so hyped up on Endgame. I mean, it was a pretty decent episode of Voyager, but it was like 18 years ago. And sitting across the virtual table from me is a guy that has more cameos than Stan Lee, Mr. Rick Tatro. How's it going, sir?
Excelsior!
And our friend from the Big Apple, Mr. Christopher D. Philippus. How's it going?
It's going well, you hippies. Make love, not war.
All right. So we do this thing on the show from time to time where I'll consult the random fact generator and just get a few random facts and just some talking points to break the ice and get the show started. But tonight I decided that we're going to have 5 random movie facts. And there's not a movie fact generator, so I found 5 random movie facts, and I'm just going to read them here on the show, and we can comment or react as warranted. So, number 1, Scream was originally titled Scary Movie. That slightly scandalous. Wait a minute. Oh, that's the wrong description. Anyway, they were originally going to call it Scary Movie. And then the parody of Scream ended up being called Scary Movie later on.
Did that turn out to be an intentional thing? Did they know that the working title was Scary Movie?
I have no idea. That's a good question.
Someone call the
I'll ask
Wayans.
the Wayans next time I see him.
Yeah. Number 2, Toy Story 2 was almost deleted. A command that was entered into the master machine where the animation for Toy Story 2 was stored deleted 90% of the work that the Pixar team had done on it. As Mental Floss describes, a plan was quickly hatched to restore the data from a regular backup, which meant that only half of a day of work would have actually been lost, but the backup system had failed. Pixar incredibly did not have a copy of the Toy Story 2 files on its servers. Fortunately, one of the film's technical director had a copy she had been working on from home, so much of it was restored.
Yeah, we technical directors saved the day again.
So we almost lost Toy Story 2.
I'm sure somebody lost their job over that. Somebody had to.
You would think.
Or their severed head is over a wall, over a doorway somewhere at Pixar.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine something that, I mean, because you're not talking about just, some small project. This is a multi-million-dollar movie, and you just didn't back up the files. Number 3, the wallet in Pulp Fiction was Quentin Tarantino's. So Jules' wallet in Pulp Fiction, the one that said "Bad MFer" on it, actually belonged to the director. He picked it up because it's a reference to the 1971 film Shaft. And as it happens, Samuel L. Jackson would go on to play the character that inspired that wallet in the 2000 remake of Shaft. And he's going to be playing Shaft again in an upcoming film.
Shut your mouth.
He's one bad mother. Number 4, there were 10,297 balloons in Up. The animators who created the pack of balloons in Up actually created every single one. The film's effects artist, John Reich, told Tech Radar that the entire canopy is filled with balloons. We didn't just simulate the outer shell. And they even got a specific count of exactly the number of balloons, 10,297.
Let's be clear. There weren't any balloons in Up.
No, but they're saying that they actually physically animated, even the balloons that you can't see on the inside, they animated those balloons.
I'm going to call shenanigans on that. And even if it's not shenanigans, I'm going to call, who cares? Sorry.
Well, I mean, to be fair, who cares about any of this stuff? And number 5, the 2 least profitable films both take place on Mars. If you're looking to score big box office bucks, stay away from Mars. The 2 biggest money losers of all time take place on that planet, with the 2012 sci-fi bomb John Carter holding the number 2 spot with a loss of almost $127 million, outdone only by Mars Needs Moms from a year earlier, which lost its studio more than $143 million.
Wow.
John Carter did not deserve that fate either. That was not a bad movie, but the executives totally screwed the pooch on that, and someone should have. Someone hopefully lost their job over that.
I've never seen it, but I have heard that it's not as bad as what it's the credit that is given. Anyway.
Well, what happened, as far as I know, I haven't verified any of this, but the rumor mill or whatever said that it was originally going to be called John Carter of Mars, and then some exec went, "Who the hell's John Carter? No one's going to know what that is," I can't remember what exactly, but it was the decision was to take Of Mars out of the title.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just, nobody knew what the movie was about. Nobody knew who John Carter was, so pretty much the only people that saw the film were nerds like us who were like, oh, I know that book from Edgar Rice Burroughs and stuff. But it was not a classic by any stretch, but it was a fun movie. It was certainly as good as, if not better than, Independence Day. And
it's funny because I did read a lot of the Mars books because they were all in public domain, and when I had long lunch hours in my former life, I would read, and I burned through a bunch of those, and maybe it was the marketing, maybe it was whatever. I never had any interest in watching that film, and if you're telling me, Rick, that at least it's worth a watch, that's news to me, because I think, wasn't it sort of panned?
Well, I mean, I don't recall exactly. I heard it wasn't great, and I won't argue with that, but I don't think it was anywhere near as bad as a lot of movies that did a lot better. And after the movie came out and after we saw it, then my wife and I went on a long drive and picked up the audiobook of Princess of Mars, which is the first one. And they stuck pretty close to it for the most part.
Except they were wearing clothes.
Yeah. I think they wanted to have the main female character naked, but Disney might have had a little problem with that.
Maybe. And can I back up for a second?
Sure.
Rick, Sean, before, when I said, yeah, who cares? I wasn't like being a dick about the fact. I was being a dick about, like, who cares that they're animated inside? Like, why would they do that? It's a waste of time.
I don't know I'm not an animator, so but I would assume that it has something to do with the movement, the way that it moves, that they can make it look more realistic if they animate each and every single one of them. So that if they're each moving independently, then it would cause the entire canopy to move. Hey, Rick, I don't know if it's the arm that your mic is on, but every time you speak, there's this weird, like a high pitched warbling noise.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only hear it when you're actually talking. When you're quiet, I don't hear anything.
Okay. Well, we can test that theory or hypothesis. Can you hear it now?
Gone.
Wow. No, it's completely gone.
It must be. It's vibrating when you talk, I think.
Yeah, the springs are so touchy.
Yeah. Well, that sucks. All right. Well, I'll just be a Vegas lounge singer for the night.
All right. Okay. If you noticed, there was a theme to all of those 5 films that I brought up. They're all owned by Disney. Yes, Pulp Fiction was a Miramax film, so it was owned by Disney. tonight's episode focuses heavily on Disney. The name of this episode is going to be All Hail the House of Mouse. We're going to talk some Star Wars. We're going to talk some Marvel. We're going to talk a little Disney Plus. Okay, I want to put this out there first and foremost. We're not going to review Endgame tonight. I know Endgame, as of the time that this episode comes out, Endgame's been out for a little over a week. And as of the time that we're recording it, Rick hasn't seen it yet. And I don't want to give away anything. Yeah, I don't want to give away anything. So, and I know, Chris, you saw it last night, right?
I did. Okay. I didn't get home until 2:45 in the morning. And my 3-word review, it was 4-word review. It was worth it.
So later on in the show, we are going to talk some Marvel stuff. But just keep in mind that Rick hasn't seen Endgame yet. So, you know, run it, whatever you say, run it through your mind before you say it, because okay. I don't want to ruin anything for Rick. And what I plan is that next week we'll do an episode where we just do a spoiler-filled review of Endgame. So
4 hours long.
No, it won't be 4 hours long. My review episodes tend to be longer than the actual movies, but I don't think with that one went. That's a 3-hour movie, so
there's a lot to unpack. So
yeah. Don't drink much if you're going to see Endgame. Don't drink a giant soda. At least don't drink it before you go in. The Run Pee app went down. I don't know if there's just so many people using it or what, but the guy that runs it, he did put a couple of tweets out letting people know that a couple of spots in the movie that you could go to the restroom or whatever, but he didn't have the full app up. So that kind of sucked, because it would have been helpful in a film like that.
Well, the movie broke $1 billion in it, already
3 days. Yeah.
So I think a lot of people were seeing it at once. I'm not surprised their servers exploded.
There are theaters that were open 24 hours a day to accommodate everybody that wanted to see the film and see it multiple times and all that.
Well, we're going to the 10 a.m. show, and that's the earliest I've seen a show in a long time.
Yeah, we saw it at 9:30 Saturday morning, and the theater was full.
That's why I try to go at the latest show I can find on a Sunday night, preferably a school Sunday night, not a vacation Sunday night.
Yeah.
Because I can't stand being in a theater full of kids. Maybe it's just being old and crotchety, but the only time I really enjoyed seeing kids in a Marvel movie was at the end of the first Avengers. When can we spoil that one? Not the first Avengers, but
sure.
what was the one
War?
called Infinity War? Thank you. Can we spoil that?
Sure. Yeah, we've already talked about that one.
When Thanos snapped his finger at the end, and I might have said this on the show before, but there were like 2 little kids in front of me, and I was just like, "Why are they here? Why?" It was like 9:30 on a Sunday night, and I'm like, "What are these parents doing?" And then when the lights came up, they were 2 little kids dressed in their Black Panther outfits, and they were heartbroken. They're like, he lost. And I was just like, wow. And I realized then how important sort of that representation was.
Yeah.
To be up there on screen, and if you're going to take your kids, maybe that was the only time you could take your kids. And my heart grew 3 times the size that day.
Actually, hang on a second. I'm gonna see if I can find my desktop mic stand.
Okay. Or sometimes it's just the only time that the parents themselves can get to. Sometimes you just don't have a choice.
Yeah, no, that's just me being totally douchey. Like if I could, I would just have an empty theater to myself. Then that's me. So
there are a lot of theaters that have started having adults only viewings of every movie, even rated G movies. They have adults only viewings of those.
Really?
Yeah. And mostly in bigger cities. I'm surprised. I'm surprised the theaters in New York don't do that. But
there could be some. I think ever since the porn theaters went out of business, though, it's been pretty much general audiences. I'd be surprised though, because there are so many theaters around here. I mean, within 5 minutes of driving from my house, I had the choice of seeing this thing in 4 theaters. So I was just picking and choosing which show I thought would be the best, which seats I could find online that were the best. And I know a lot of people don't have that kind of choice. You know, and that was just local to me. I could probably have seen it if I wanted to drive even further and, any number, like 20 theaters. It's just because we have that kind of population density around here.
We only have one theater in Birmingham where you can reserve a seat. I mean, you can buy tickets online ahead of time, but you can't reserve the seat that you want to sit in except for that one theater. And it's the furthest one from my house, so I very rarely go there. But
I never do it that way because there's a theater that's one of the, I think it is the last independent movie theater on Long Island, right a mile from my house in Sayville. And most of their shows are $5. So unless it's a giant event movie where I want to see it on like a really terrific screen, I'll just run up to Sayville and I'll see any movie for about $5.
yeah.
Again, that's when I used to have time to do those kinds of things. Now, I have to make the time. And,
That's what we did. We have a theater close by here that's $5. We had a drive-in and it went out of business last year, so that sucked. They actually said that they're closing for renovations and that they were going to reopen, and then they announced last week we're not going to reopen.
Aw. I think the last movie I saw in a drive-in was Back to the Future 3.
Oh, wow. It was great. It was convenient because it was within about 5 miles of my house, and with the baby, it would have been great, because you don't have to worry about him causing a noise or whatever to interrupt people that's trying to watch the movie because you're in your car, and he can go to sleep, whatever. So I was really looking forward to them opening back up in time for Endgame, and then they just announced, no, we're not opening back up. We sold it. We sold the property to somebody else. So, and they're not going to use it for a drive-in. They haven't said that. I'm assuming they're not going to use it for a drive-in.
You should start a Indiegogo campaign. Save the Birmingham drive-in or wherever it is.
I think it's called the Coyote Drive-In. Okay, so
And the
let's
jokes
talk about
just write themselves.
Let's talk about the Star Wars Episode 9 trailer that came out a couple weeks ago. So
Really? Never heard of it.
the actually quote unquote the teaser trailer. I don't know about you guys, but what they call teaser trailers now are not teasers. They're just trailers.
Yeah.
Because a teaser is supposedly something that you put out when you don't really have a lot of footage yet. You haven't filmed a whole lot of the movie, or it's not finished. And like I watched the over the weekend, I was watching some trailers and I saw the original teaser trailer for Star Trek Generations, and all it was they showed the insignia on the screen and then some really quick clips that told you absolutely nothing about the movie, just like Data laughing and Picard pointing, and that's about it. I think Shatner was riding a horse. That's it. And
That's pretty much the whole movie.
yeah. And then that's but that was a teaser. It just lets you know that the movie's coming. It's going to be 6 months from now. We're not finished with it, but we want to let you know it's coming. Now they put out these Star Wars trailers. They're like 3 minutes long. They spell out a lot of key points of the story to tell you what the movie is about. It's just a regular trailer, but they're still calling it a teaser.
Well, I think maybe you can consider that trailer a teaser because it is a lot of quick cuts and scenes without context. So it kind of fits that mold you were talking about, Sean. It's just grander now. And they have Leia's theme prominent in it. Anyway, it sounded like Leia's theme to me when I was in the theater last night and I saw it. And it was, I guess Luke's theme is the main Star Wars theme, right? It's dun, 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 dun. But Leia's theme is so much more introspective and so much, it's just a nicer piece of music. And to put, I think, that over this teaser is sort of doubling down on the nostalgia factor of everything that is gone from the franchise. The fact that Luke is basically a Force ghost now, speaking in basic voiceover. You do have a scene of Carrie Fisher hugging, was it Rey?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know that is her last appearance on screen anywhere for anything. So,
yeah.
And then of course they flash to Billy D in the Falcon with Chewie. So they're really hammering home that this is the end. And I don't know what the hell the movie's about at all, except for the fact that it's the last of the original trilogy, so to speak. That whole storyline.
It's the last of the saga films, at least
Right.
for now. They keep saying it's the last of the saga films. I think they'll eventually get back to the saga. It may be 10 years, but they'll eventually get back to the saga.
Okay,
they're gonna go off and do some other stuff. They're gonna do another Star Wars. I think they've announced they're gonna take a break for a while, but because they're gonna focus on some of the TV stuff that we'll talk about here in a few minutes. But yeah, I seriously doubt that we will never, ever, ever have a movie that focuses on the Skywalker saga ever again.
But see, it's a confusing title too, because it's the last of the 9, yet it's called with the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, and people are speculating about that. They're saying that it's called Rise of Skywalker, and they're saying that it's because Rey's going to find out that she's a Skywalker or whatever. Personally, I think that Skywalker is the name of the Jedi Order that Rey starts up, and she names it Skywalker. So it's Rise of Skywalker, the Jedi Order.
Could it be Luke ascending into the next life?
It could be, but he did that in the last movie.
Just getting all metaphysical.
I know that's not the only scene of Carrie Fisher that's going to be in the movie. They talked about they had a lot of stuff from The Last Jedi that they didn't use. So
I understand that, but I mean, you didn't get one shot of Luke in that trailer at all.
Yeah,
but you did get a shot of Carrie.
Because I think they're not wanting to. I have a theory that Luke is going to be back physically. I know, he disappeared in the last movie. Everybody says he's going to be a Force ghost. I think that they're purposely not showing us because we're going to see some kind of physical Luke in this movie, and they want it to be more of a surprise. So we'll probably, I'm sure we're going to get 3 or 4 more trailers before the movie comes out.
True.
And then, of course, there's the big reveal, if you want to call it that, the laugh at the end of the trailer.
Oh yeah, Palpatine. Because when I heard it, I was like, "Is that Palpatine?" And then, like, immediately, J.J. Abrams confirmed, yes, Palpatine is in this movie.
Well, and Ian McDermott was at the Star Wars celebration.
Yeah,
he not just attending. He was, they brought him out on stage as soon as that they showed that trailer, and like, yep, he's in it. And so, of course, people, there are just fan holes losing their ever loving tiny little minds about trying to figure out how the hell that's supposed to be. I'm like, have you ever seen a Star Wars movie?
Yeah, really.
You don't need to sweat logic, dudes.
There's 100 different ways that I could come up with right now.
Yeah, wasn't Darth Maul cut in half, and yet he's fine.
He's all over Rebels and Clone Wars.
He was at the end of Solo, and I think in the books, which are not canon unless they decide to make it canon. They've been bringing different aspects of the books into the movies and making them canon. And in some of the books, Palpatine has a bunch of clones out there, so he shows up all the time. So I guess he could show up as a clone or something like that. I keep hearing repeated over and over and over, J.J. Abrams has to fix what Rian Johnson broke. And, that's not really a fair statement because Rian Johnson, he directed Last Jedi. He wrote the screenplay. But the way these movies work, they give you a book and said, this is what has to happen in this movie. And then you write the screenplay. And then 500 people have to approve that screenplay. And then you've got 100 producers on set approving everything that you do while you're filming the film. So to say Rian Johnson broke it and J.J. Abrams has to fix it is not fair because Rian Johnson just did what Disney told him to do.
But that's plain wrong because J.J. Abrams broke it and Rian Johnson came a long way to make it compelling and interesting again. And now J.J. Abrams is going to come back with the same sensibility that ruined The Force Awakens.
He's going to go back. Well, The Force Awakens wasn't ruined.
I don't. It was a rehash. No, that movie. No, I'm not gonna. We're not gonna have this argument. That movie does not stand up. It's as simple as that, and it's because it suffers from the J.J. Abrams flaws. I mean, and he's got a whole hatful of things that he falls back on that ultimately fail when it comes to cinematic storytelling. So, in my opinion, so to say that he needs to come in and fix what a more competent filmmaker did to make the characters compelling and give them an arc and have them grow is just utter nonsense.
Sorry, that was a mosquito.
Whoa, you must be in Florida.
Yeah. Okay. So
I don't disagree with you about, the Force Awakens was totally safe, and there were no risks taken. I enjoyed it, and the whole time I was enjoying it, I was like, this is a complete ripoff, but it was done well enough that I enjoyed it. I think JJ is really good at building roller coasters that are fun to ride on, and then you walk away and you're like, that really left me with nothing, but it was fun to ride. I liked The Last Jedi a lot more, even though it was a far more deeply flawed film, because it took risks and it took chances.
It had exactly what you said, Rick. It took risks, therefore it had the chance to be flawed.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that Star Wars and J.J. Abrams are a good match, much better than Star Trek was. And I honestly don't know what to expect from The Rise of Skywalker, which at this point I think is a stupid ass name. But, not knowing what the context of it is, it's really hard to say. But, I'd like to see him stick the landing. I'd like to see see a satisfying end to this 40-year trudge, where like 2.5 movies were really worth watching out of the entirety.
I don't know. I think that when you have a scene where the hero that everybody loved most, even more than Luke, Han Solo, gets stabbed through the heart by his own son, and I felt absolutely nothing, that is a deeply flawed movie.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right. Rant over.
But other stuff that's going to be in the film that we saw in the trailer, Rey is really good at the Force now. She backflips over a TIE fighter. Kylo's
that's a bullet point on the resume. Good at the Force.
Kylo's going to put his mask back on. Billy D's back as Lando. I don't expect him to do very much other than sit in the cockpit and yell. Hey guys, let me pause for just a second. I'll be right back.
Okay.
No.
Hi.
Hey. Oh. So I see you got Migo Kirk and
yes.
Migo Uhura.
Uh-huh.
I have my Migo bones upstairs. His leg keeps falling off.
Yeah, my Scotty is at work.
Are those original?
Yeah.
Okay, now let me ask you, did the mission patch appliques stay on, or do you just have the no gold foil?
No, they fell off. Well, Uhura's...
Because by McCoy still has like a white...
Shit, I keep forgetting to not...
Oh, that's right. How's your shoulder?
It's great unless I do something like...
Gotcha.
See, she's got a little bit of hers left.
Right. Okay, that's kind of like my McCoy one.
Yeah.
It's kind of bluish.
These actually were a friend of mine. She eventually liquidated her collection and sent a bunch of stuff to me. And these have been sitting in a box in her garage for 20 years. So I don't let toys sit in boxes. They come out, they've got to be displayed or played with. But yeah, Kirk's is completely gone. I think Scotty and McCoy's are gone too. I had Spock, but I sent him to one of my co-hosts.
That's
but
cool.
they still have their little communicators and phasers.
Yeah, I have the phaser and a tricorder, which is sort of on a loop. And it used to fit over their wrists, if I recall correctly, or even in their hands, like they would hold on to them. But yeah, it's kind of neat that I was able to find all that stuff. It's like when you don't. Oh, there he is.
Hold on just a second.
Yes, dear.
So I still want to get you on. I'm now that this insanity is finally coming to an end, and the semester's almost over, and I can act. Well, actually, we're getting ready to move, so there's more insanity coming up. But I'm starting to work on my Infinite Diversity podcast.
Right.
So if you're still amenable, I still want to get you on the show for an interview.
I mean, at your leisure. I'm always willing to talk into a mic. I don't know what I'm going to be able to contribute, but however you want me to participate, I will.
You know, it's podcasting. It's just, you know, shit talking for 30 or 40 minutes. And
I can do that.
Yeah.
Imagine if we were talking about something I care about instead of Star Wars.
Yeah, that's my big thing with Star Wars is after the prequel trilogy essentially broke my heart. You know, I never went so far as to say like George Lucas raped my childhood, like a lot of people were saying, but it was like, okay, these movies suck and they're sucking harder with each one. So any expectations I had for good filmmaking out of Star Wars were dashed 20 years ago. So now if it just entertains me and doesn't insult me, I have a good time. I really didn't expect to like Solo, and I had a blast with Solo. I thought that was a lot more fun than it deserved to be.
Well, I enjoyed Solo, and I got really panned. And Sean, you were talking about how they were talking about taking a break. I remember reading an article where I don't know if it was the president of Disney or the woman that they put in charge of Star Wars, specifically Catherine Kennedy. She either said it was going to be at least one, if not two, Star Wars movies a year in perpetuity forever. Like they had the IP and they were going to ride that IP because they knew that the fans, like, anyway, they thought the fan hunger was insatiable. And then again, this weird, like the Solo curse. Han dies in the first reboot film, so to speak, and that fails to resonate. And then a story all about Han's backstory is the one that everybody pans. I mean, that's where they found the bottom. It was weird to me because I don't think Solo was in itself a bad movie. And I'm wondering like why it got such backlash when people seem to love The Force Awakens so much more, and it's an inferior film. But that's me.
That was when you started having people when people are able to go on Rotten Tomatoes and review a movie before it even comes out, you know, then you know you're just setting movies up to fail. And I personally don't think that they should be able to do that. You should not be able to review a movie that hasn't even come out yet.
They've changed that too. They've eliminated that particular bit of functionality. But you know, I've never really used Rotten Tomatoes as anything other than an after the fact, oh, what did people think about it? Because I haven't listened to a movie review to decide whether to see a movie or not in, I don't know, since newspapers essentially went away. Because if I'm going to go see a movie, I'm going to go see it. You know, and you know, maybe it's because of my age and my you know, situation. Whereas, you know, the days of my just kind of going, hey, let's go to a movie off the cuff, what the hell, are long gone. So any movie I go to now is, you know, premeditated and usually planned well in advance. So I haven't sat down with a newspaper to go, let's see which movie is getting decent reviews today that we didn't see yesterday that we won't see tomorrow. You know, it's so maybe I'm not the best judge of this anymore, but if a review site has the power to totally torpedo a film's profits, that's way too much power.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the new Disney streaming service, because you know, we've been doing a lot of focusing on doing the Discovery After Show and stuff, so we haven't we've had episodes coming out, but we haven't been recording in a while. So this is something that's come out since the last time we recorded. they've had a lot of announcements lately coming out about Disney's new streaming service that they're calling Disney Plus. It's coming on November 12th of this year. It's going to be $6.99 a month, which is what I hoped for. So I'll definitely be able to get this. I was afraid it was going to be like $20 or $25 a month or something like that, something crazy. But when it comes out, they're going to have a lot of stuff that, as of right now, hasn't even come out in theaters, like Aladdin, Lion King, Toy Story 4. Endgame will be on there. Episode 9 will be on there. Well, Episode 9 won't be on there when it launches on November 12th because that movie doesn't come out till December. But
that would be a coup.
Yeah. Frozen 2, Captain Marvel, Dumbo, all that's going to be on there. And since Disney acquired Fox, they're going to be able to have all 9 Star Wars films, even the 6 that were filmed for 20th Century Fox. And a lot of the Disney back catalog, some Fox stuff like The Simpsons. But what I'm looking forward to is some of their original content. So Marvel is going to be making a lot of shows for this. They're going to have a Falcon and Winter Soldier show starring Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan. They're going to have
a buddy cop show.
Yeah, I guess. They're going to have a Loki story starring Tom Hiddleston as Loki. And then they've got this show called WandaVision, which is about Scarlet Witch and the Vision, and it stars Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany. And then we got a lot of Star Wars stuff coming, like The Mandalorian. Have you guys seen any of the behind the scenes stuff for The Mandalorian?
Yeah, I love his armor, and I'm not a fan of Boba Fett, but I like how his helmet is much more almost medieval looking. I saw the trailer that they showed at the Star Wars celebration, which, we always complain about trailers giving away too much. This really doesn't give away much at all. I have no idea what it's about other than he's a bounty hunter, and he gets a bounty to go after. But of course, because it's most unusual and all of the normal channels aren't being followed, and so I'm sure that whatever the bounty is, whoever it is going to cause him some sort of moral dilemma and will send him off on adventures and shenanigans and stuff.
So like, are all Mandalorians bounty hunters?
Yeah, I was about to ask the same thing. Is the entire planet nothing but bounty hunters?
I don't know. They're Mandalorian accountants. I think about that like with the Predator too. It's like, on the Predator planet, did they have like Predator street sweepers and Predator actuaries?
Yeah, you see just a Mandalorian with that helmet on, just at the grocery store checking out somebody's groceries.
Built-in scanner.
But
although, do either of you watch Star Wars Rebels, or have you seen it?
I've saw the first couple of seasons. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I saw I think the first 2 episodes, and it didn't catch my interest.
The first I got as far as season 4, and then it lost me. But there's a Mandalorian character in there, Sabine, and she's kind of fun. But they're all sort of outlaws, so it fits that she's a bounty hunter gone good or whatever.
Gotcha. Give me a second now. I have to step away, guys. I got a low battery alert here. I have to go up and get my charger.
Okay.
They have I was playing Angry Birds the Star Wars edition. They just came out with a new one, Angry Birds Star Wars 2, and it's mostly like based on the prequels and stuff. But after you play through all 3 of the prequel boards that they have a Rebels board. It's Angry Birds Rebels, so it's pretty cool. It's got like bird versions of all of the characters, and some of the bad guys, they make them into pigs and stuff like that. But they've also this Disney service has also got some animated stuff, like they're bringing back Star Wars Clone Wars. They're going to do another season on their service, and then they're doing Monsters at Work, which is a Monsters Inc. centered animated series, and Marvel's What If I don't know if you ever read any of the Marvel's What If comics. Have you ever heard of them before?
I've heard of them. Yeah, I've never read
Yeah.
them.
So they're turning it into like an animated series, and I guess every episode is going to be like a new issue, and it's just random stuff. Like I think the first episode is supposed to be what if Peggy Carter had become Captain America, you know, and it's kind of like DC does with the Elseworlds, where they just take a character and they just say, well, what if this happened a different way instead of the way that it actually happened in the story, and it lets them explore new angles and stuff like that.
Like the one where Clark Kent lands in the Soviet Union instead of Smallville.
Elseworlds?
You know, with the DC Elseworlds, like 50% of them were what if Clark landed here instead of here, you know? So they did that one, and they did one where he landed in the jungle, and it was basically Tarzan but with Superman powers. And they did one where what if Clark had landed in Gotham City and was found by the Waynes. So they raised him as Bruce Wayne, and then when his parents were murdered, he became Batman, but he has Superman powers. And which it sounds, I mean, that sounds interesting until when you read it, then they have Lex Luthor, but Lex Luthor is the Penguin. You know. So yeah, that the Disney Plus service they're coming out of the gate a lot better than CBS All Access did, because, you know, CBS, they just had one show. I mean, they've still got a few. They've got a few now, but they've only got one that I watched. I've watched some of the Twilight Zone. I haven't watched all of it, but they don't have anything that's just like, I need to watch that. And this Disney service has a lot of stuff that I want to check out. You know.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I tried to watch the Twilight Zone. I watched Terror at 30,000 feet or whatever it was, and I was underwhelmed. Although it was great.
That's a good way to put it.
It was great to hear Dan Carlin get a gig, because he was the voice of the podcast that the guy was listening to. But and then I tried to watch one where the comedian realizes that anytime he talks about something on stage, that something goes away. And I got like halfway through that episode and was like, I don't really need to watch the end of this. I was reminded. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad show, but I also realized at that point that I was always more of an Outer Limits fan than a Twilight Zone fan anyway. So all of these, you know, kind of creepy, weird, otherworldly, wake up and you're in an empty town and where did everybody go stories were not really my bag anyway.
The baby's crying.
That's okay. I feel you, dude.
He's not wanting to go to sleep, and my wife is getting upset.
He's born to be
I think I'm going to try to go to a different room. Hold on a second.
Actually, I'm going to look up the Disney streaming, and just see what the rundown is. So maybe I can speak to some things that I would like.
I was kind of both excited and saddened to hear that they're quite affordable, because I was hoping to ignore it. But
it's going to be way easy for me to ignore. I don't know that even that's why I'm looking this up to see if there's anything that might even compel me, because I'm not a Disney consumer in any way.
Me either.
So,
but both my wife and my daughters are big into
right.
Disney
And
stuff.
I mean, I attribute it to the fact that I never had kids, so I never had to sit through a lot of the stuff that most parents have to sit through. And I understand the appeal of Pixar. I understand the appeal of a lot of the stuff. It just never speaks to me in any significant way. The only one that ever spoke to me, even though I just dissed it before at the top of the podcast, was Up. I mean, the first 10 minutes of that film had me, like, you know, in tears.
Yeah.
So I stuck with it and I thought it was good, but everybody was so jazzed about Wall-E. I watched that. I said, this is run-of-the-mill sci-fi sort of cliche. It's not like, they're not breaking any ground with this. How has this become such a sensation? And I find that with a lot of the Pixar stuff, it gets talked up and talked up and talked up. And when I watch it, it never lives up to the hype.
Yeah.
So that's if the Disney streaming service is going to be just more of that, I don't know what to do. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed Wall-E. A lot of their stuff, I enjoyed watching it once, but not enough to watch it more, over and over again. The only one they ever did that I liked, that I watched a lot, was A Bug's Life. I really enjoyed that movie.
Okay.
And,
I haven't seen it.
It wasn't anything, wasn't anything new, except it was, it was the, larger population being oppressed by smaller population, but done as bugs, ants and grasshoppers, and it was just a very sweet story and a lot of fun to watch, and there were some really cool characters. But that was 20 years ago, easy.
Yeah. And
But my daughter will watch movies over and over and over and over and over. So.
Oh, now I know how my wife feels every time Wrath-a-Con comes on. I had a sister. She used to watch. I still have a sister. She's still with us. She used to watch Grease every single day. So,
wow.
I know from whence you come. The pain is real, Rick. The struggle is real. Yeah.
All right, I'm back.
Yeah, I was always more of a Warner Brothers Looney Tunes guy. So.
Agreed.
And the thing is, my daughter hasn't seen any of that because it's not available except on the Warner Brothers streaming service, which is not worth paying for.
There's a lot of Looney Tunes on YouTube.
I was gonna say mainly YouTube is where I get all my Looney Tunes these days.
Yeah, if you go to Walmart, there's a lot of.
No sentence that starts that way ends well.
There's a lot of DVDs. Looney Tunes DVDs, because I used to buy them when my kids were younger, and it's like $7-8 for a DVD set that'll have like 2 discs in it, and it'll have probably 30 or 40 cartoons on it.
But are they all like the pre-World War II really racist ones? Or?
No, they have. I think they go in decades. So I don't know if they're by release date or whatever. But okay, yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
I had a few of them, but I haven't put a DVD in my DVD player in so long that it's.
Mine is still sitting under the TV. I don't even know what is that for.
Yeah, everything's available streaming, and I'm.
My little one almost broke my heart tonight, and I realized what a terrible parent I am because I mentioned Bugs Bunny. My wife and I were talking about Disney versus Looney Tunes at dinner, and I said Bugs Bunny, and Sharon just went, "Who's Bugs Bunny?" It's like, I have so failed as a parent.
Yeah, because when I was a kid, Disney World is a 10-hour drive from where I am, but Six Flags is a 2-hour drive from where I am. So we went to Six Flags every summer, and Six Flags is the Warner Brothers version of Disney World.
Well, Disney World is an hour and a half from me, but it's also I'd have to sell the kids in order to afford to go.
It's not cheap.
Don't beat yourself up, Rick. We live in a different world. I mean, you and I we're sort of an age. Sean's the baby of this group, but when we were growing up, the only thing on TV was hours of Bugs Bunny.
Yeah,
followed by hours of the Brady Bunch and maybe Gilligan's Island. So we didn't really have much choice in the matter. The only time Disney was ever on was on Sunday night at 7:00, and you were praying that it would be a cartoon. And sometimes it was, and you were like, "Yay!" And then sometimes it was just like, I waited through this freaking football game in Mutual of Omaha's Wild America for this.
No, I'm the baby of the group, and it was the same way when I was growing up. We didn't have Cartoon Network until I was grown, Yeah. So
our kids will not have to know the wasteland that was Sunday afternoon television.
Yeah. You get the Saturday morning cartoons, and then you get the Sunday morning cartoons, and the Sunday morning cartoons were a lot worse.
I got to see Davy and Goliath on Sunday morning, and I will die on that hill, Rick Tetro.
There was a cartoon that came on Sunday mornings, and it was all Hanna-Barbera. It was like Hanna-Barbera, but it was like all the characters from Hanna-Barbera, and they were all like on the Ark or something like that. And I can't remember the name of it. And then they had and then they had like Hanna-Barbera's All Stars or something like that, but it was like Hanna-Barbera land or whatever on Sunday mornings. That was mostly what you saw, Flintstones and Yogi Bear and stuff like that.
I just loved that on Davy and Goliath. I learned that God was spelled Gawd. They all had that Midwest accent.
Yeah. Okay, so Marvel Studios is taking a break after, technically after Endgame, they're taking a break, but you still have Spider-Man Far From Home that's coming out July the 4th or July the 5th, but they're going to release it on July the 4th. And that's an MCU film, but it's not really made by Marvel Studios. It's made by Sony. So after Endgame, Marvel Studios is kind of going on a break because we're used to getting like 2 movies a year from them. And Endgame is the only movie they're releasing this year. So you've got in 2020, what they're planning right now is Doctor Strange 2 and the Black Widow standalone movie that they've been talking about since like 2013 or something like that.
Well, now it's finally got, like, it's happening though.
Yeah, they're actually casting it and all that kind of stuff. So, and then they are going to make Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but they're not going to start filming that until after James Gunn finishes with the sequel to The Suicide Squad that he had already signed on to it after he got fired from Disney. And then when Disney rehired him, he said, well, I'm going to do this first, and then I'll come and do Guardians. It's like, okay, yeah. So, which show of hands, anybody that thinks that whole thing was planned?
No, I don't think so. That's an expensive publicity ploy. But
if it wasn't Disney, I might have considered it, but I don't think Disney's going to play around with pedophilia and the level of nastiness he was posting. I don't think Disney doesn't. They enforce that wholesome image at all costs.
Right.
Were you gonna say something else, Chris? I'm sorry.
Well, I was just, because you had inspired me, and I was telling Rick while you were off mic that I don't know what's on the Disney streaming service to get excited about, because it's not my orbit, so so I was looking anyway, and it looks like there's going to be a Hawkeye show, and I'm really happy that there's going to be a Black Widow movie, and Clint and Nat are 2 of my favorite Avengers. For whatever reason, I just love it when they're on screen together, and I think that they always get overshadowed by the bigger names, but they're in many ways at the heart of the team, and they have some of the best moments in the films. So any more Hawkeye for me, if it's going to be Jeremy Renner reprising the role, that I'm into, that I'd like to see. But there's really no other details except for the fact that they're saying there's going to be a show based on Hawkeye.
Yeah.
So I'd like to get more information about that. That might at least get me to go for a free trial to check it out.
They're also going to, they are going to be releasing some of their older films, but they're also going to be remaking some of their older films. They're planning a remake of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which to me, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. What'd you say?
Oh, goody.
No, I'm just laughing at the fact that you finish your thought, because I think we might be having the same thought.
Well, I personally, I was like 13 when the film came out, so I have some love in my heart for that film, and I think that it holds up enough. I don't really think it needs a remake. Now, if you want to say you want to make a new sequel to it or something like that, I can see that, but I don't see a reason to remake that particular story. Especially since it's just, you could easily take whatever you're planning to put in a remake and you could turn it into just an updated sequel or something like that.
True. And it's funny, when I think of an older Disney film, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is not even in the Peter Pan is what I was thinking when you're talking about older.
30 years ago.
Yeah, I know, but Disney's been putting out films since the 50s.
Yeah.
You know,
I was thinking the
1989
computer
to
wore
me,
tennis shoes.
that doesn't seem like that long ago to me. 1989. So, I mean, I'm still with the same person that I was with then. So it's like
Yeah.
maybe I stood still. I don't know. But it's funny you said that the Shaggy DA. Maybe they can
Yeah.
remake that, right?
Well, it's funny. I tell my students like
Oh,
every now and then
guys,
I'll
hang
come
on.
up. Oh.
I had Game of Thrones on pause, and it just booted back in. So if you hear a bunch of White Walkers dying, that's what it is.
You can only pause it for an hour.
When I try to tell my students that Kurt Russell used to be like the Disney movie poster boy.
Yeah. Yeah. What was it? The computer wore sneakers.
Computer wore tennis shoes.
Tennis shoes, yeah. And then they remade that. They remade that in the 90s with Kirk Cameron, I think.
Did they?
Yeah. For TV. It wasn't it's a theatrical thing, but
we got Herbie, the Love Bug, and
I used to love Herbie. He came in, torpedoed the conversation.
I think it was the day I heard Buddy Hackett's stand up after I'd grown up seeing him on, every Disney movie and things like It's a Mad, 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 Mad World and all those very wholesome comedies from the 50s and 60s and 70s. And then probably him and Red Fox were like two of the bluest comedians you could ever hear.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow. It took me completely by surprise.
Yeah, I heard Dave Coulier doing stand-up one time, and this was after he was on Full House, which, I mean, Bob Saget's the same way if you ever listen to his stand-up.
Saget is, but he's hilarious. But
yeah,
God, he's,
but Dave Coulier, when I was a kid, Dave Coulier was on a Nickelodeon show I think it was called The Laugh Factory or something like that. And then he was on Full House for years and years and years. And after that, I saw him doing stand-up where he was doing all of his cartoon voices, but he was cursing and he was saying really disgusting things. And I was like, wow. That image is gone.
He's the guy that Alanis Morissette was singing about in You Ought to Know.
Yeah.
Which granted, I am not one who can easily judge the attractiveness of another male for the most part, but how that pairing ever happened is just beyond me. But
all right. Okay, before we go into our last segment, I want to take a break. I'm going to play an ad right now and let you to tell you about some of the other shows that we have available on the network. So we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. All right.
Those were amazing. I want to sign up right now.
Please do. CosmicPotato.com. The last thing I want to do tonight is let everybody talk about whatever you guys have been watching lately, and either you can either recommend it or you can warn against it. The thing that I have seen lately that I wanted to bring up is Shazam. Have either one of you guys seen Shazam? It's been a few weeks since it came out, and I hadn't got a chance to talk about it on the show, but I really liked it. I thought that it was a lot of fun. It's got some pacing issues because when Billy first gets his powers, they almost bring the movie to a halt so that he can play around and figure out how to use his powers and stuff. And it's total like not Last Action Hero, a Greatest American Hero type stuff, and so, and then they do the whole kid in an adult body kind of thing. But overall, I think that it had something that's been missing from DC films, which is humor. And yes, I know Aquaman had humor as well, but this movie, the humor actually worked. So
hey, I liked Aquaman.
I liked parts of Aquaman, but like I said before, Aquaman had humor and no one else did. So Zachary Levi, he was actually really good in the role. I was already a fan of his because I used to watch him on Chuck all the time, but the suit that he was wearing, I wasn't crazy about, because obviously it was padded. Now, he did work out for the movie, but they obviously padded it with some more muscles and stuff. And when he walked, it didn't look right, the way that he was walking and stuff. But but the movie was a lot darker than I was expecting. There was some pretty scary monsters and more violence than I thought it was going to be. I don't know why they marketed this movie in front of kids' movies and stuff, but and parts of it, seem like it was made for that audience, but then there were other parts that just too scary for little kids, in my opinion. So,
well, normally we preview any adult movie that Sharon wants to see. That's my little girl. But like you said, the ads, the trailers for, I'm having trouble talking tonight. The trailers for Shazam played before every cartoon movie I took her to see for like 6 months before the movie opened.
mm-hmm.
And then all the trailers on TV made it look like the whole movie was just goofy adult with a kid's brain doing silly things. And so she kept begging to go see it. My wife wanted to see it. I had no interest in it. So we even made it, if you behave this week at school, it opens this weekend. So, she did her homework and behaved herself at school. And my wife and she went to see it on the Saturday or the Sunday it opened. And they were home less than 2 hours later. They had to leave because it got too scary for her. And normally I blame the parents, and I freely admit we dropped the ball on this, but it sure didn't seem like there was any reason to feel there was a need to preview this film before taking my 7-year-old to see it. So I had no expectation whatsoever that there would be anything in the movie that was inappropriate for her. And then when she came home and she was like, it was really scary and they had to go, I was not at all pleased.
Yeah, the bad guy seemed like he was taken from a different movie than what everybody else was taken from, because it was all fun and games until the bad guy would show up, and then it would get really serious and then go back to being fun and games until the bad guy showed up again, and then it got really serious and scary again. So it was just up and down and up and down. So you really wouldn't know from one scene to the next what you were gonna get. So it failed in that, because I think that once you set a tone for a movie, that tone needs to ride all the way through. You don't need the tone of your movie doesn't need to change constantly throughout. I'm all for having a scary bad guy in a movie, but don't make your movie where it's half comedy and then completely to the other side of the spectrum after that, where you're watching the bad guy getting thrown out a window. That can be scary for a kid to see, so go ahead, Chris.
Was this in any way a setup for the news that I heard last year that Dwayne Johnson had signed on to do a Black Adam movie?
Yeah.
For DC?
Yeah. The thing is with Black Adam was not the bad guy of Shazam. They used a different bad guy. And the reason for that is because in my opinion, Black Adam's origin is too complex to have him share a movie with another person's origin.
Right. Okay.
So, and Black Adam's origin is even more complex than Shazam. So they're going to give Black Adam his own movie, to get his origin out of the way, and then they'll put him and Shazam in the same movie later on, which Black Adam kind of goes back and forth between, sometimes he's a villain and sometimes he's like an anti-hero. So I think they're going to kind of go that way, where they'll Shazam and Black Adam will fight when they face each other, but then other times, Black Adam will be more of an anti-hero in other films and stuff. So
is it still a thing that we know of? Is it like the Rock is still on board with it?
Yeah, he was listed as an executive producer of this film, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
So,
it's probably something that they threw him to get the contract signed, I'm thinking.
Yeah. What have you guys been watching, Rick? You got anything you wanted to bring up?
Hang on. I was going to try to look up that Black Adam thing while you guys were talking about it. Well, yeah, I've been watching. Since I've been kind of on the recuperating side of life, I've been watching a lot more stuff than I normally do. Like I said earlier, I tried to watch The Twilight Zone. Didn't really work for me. Oh, no, I can't remember. There's a series on Netflix called Love, Death, and Robots, which is being touted. What brought it to my attention was an article that said it was sort of a spiritual sequel to heavy metal. The heavy metal movies that came out in the 80s, which do not hold up all that well to the test of time, at least as far as things like misogyny and equal rights and stuff like that. I mean, there's still some parts of heavy metal are a lot of fun, but it was very much a male gaze oriented cartoon. So this show, it's a bunch of 15 to 17 minute long vignettes of all very different styles, different directors, different writers, stuff like that. Some of them are really interesting. Some of them it's like they were written by a 12-year-old. Some of them they're all either gory, or there's nudity, or there's foul language, or all of the above. Sometimes it works. Sometimes the more adult themes are very organically woven into the story and don't stand out as anything other than what would make sense for it to be there. Then there's some where it's just like there was absolutely no reason for that woman to be naked through the entire damn thing, other than the fact that, hey, we can do boobs. So I enjoyed most of it, and the ones I didn't enjoy, they weren't terrible. It was just, there's one called Witness, which I thought had a fantastic premise that was utterly overshadowed by the unnecessary nudity and sex involved. Because the ending was like, oh wow, that's pretty cool, but and then there's others where it was just, the animation was incredible, the stories were really cool. Some of them were very disturbing, but that's kind of imagine it's sort of like if Penthouse magazine was doing their version of the Outer Limits sort of thing, which I guess that would describe heavy metal magazine.
Yeah, I was just gonna think that sounds like heavy metal.
So I mean, if you go into it knowing that it's very adult, and make sure the kids aren't around, because there's stuff in there you definitely will not want your kids to see. A lot of it's fun. A lot of it's really, really interesting and fun. I've been rewatching some old Star Trek TOS episodes, going through and trying to find ones I haven't watched in forever. And I watched Let That Be Your Last Battlefield last night, and it's really not quite the punch in the face I always give it or write it off as. It was a little more subtle. I mean, not really subtle, but the dialogue wasn't too bad. And watching Frank Gorshin chew the scenery is always fun. Also, one thing I watched the other night that really disappointed me, and I'm sad to report this, but I was a huge Mystery Science Theater 3000 fan all through the 90s and the early aughts, I guess, when they were still on. And a couple of years back, Joel Robinson did a Kickstarter to bring the show back, and did it with all new people. Or did either of you guys watch MST3K at all?
I mean, I've seen it. I've only watched like one episode of the relaunch.
Okay.
Right. I saw it when it was in its day, but I haven't seen any kind of modern day iteration.
Okay. The new one, it starred as the bad guys. It was Felicia Day and Patton Oswalt. So I was like, that's a great combination. But it just, I got about 4 episodes in, and I just sort of petered out. I just didn't watch it anymore. And then I was just kind of surfing through Netflix last night, and there was a Riff Tracks movie. Now, if you're not familiar with Riff Tracks, it's pretty much the main guys from MST3K have been doing They've been still doing it ever since MST3K went off the air, but it's always been like pay-per-view kind of thing.
Yeah.
You had to pay to watch it. And they do movies that are, a little more adult, they didn't always worry about swearing and nudity and gore and stuff like that. And so there was this one, Treasure of the Amazon, which of course is a terrible movie. That's kind of the whole idea. And then Kevin Murphy and Mike Nelson, and I don't remember who else. It's like 3 or 4 of them are riffing on the movie, but there's no silhouetted robots or anything. It's just them, just their voices. And through this whole 2-hour long show, I think I grinned once. It was very
Do you
sad.
think is it because it's not funny anymore, or just because that humor you don't find funny anymore? Like, have you tried to go back and watch any of the old ones to see if you still find that funny?
No, I haven't. So that is a fair question to ask, and I've been asking myself that. Is this just no longer my thing? But I mean, remember 2 Christmases ago, we essentially did that to Gremlins and had a great time.
Yeah.
I find the premise, I think, is fine. I think it's just that these guys have been doing it too long, and they need to learn when to hang it up.
They've got a website that you can go on, and because they do some riff tracks for films that they can't really get the license for, to like Jurassic Park and stuff like that. And you can go on their website and you can download the MP3 of them doing the riff track, and then you just get the movie yourself and sync it up and watch it. So they've got a lot of those. I think they charge like a couple bucks for the MP3 or whatever on their website. And
yeah, and I've got a data point of 1 on here, so it may just have been not the best one they've done. So
I still say that the riff tracks version of the Star Wars Holiday Special is the only way to watch that. You can't
if you
get
have to
through
watch it
without,
at all.
Yeah, if you want to watch the Holiday Special, you got to watch the riff tracks version, or don't bother.
I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, it's out there. It's probably on YouTube. But Chris, what have you been watching?
Well, it's really what I've not been watching. Now I've been watching Discovery, and that's the only show that I've been watching regularly every week, because I am a Star Trek fan and I really happen to enjoy it. And you would occasionally have me on the show to talk about it, more than occasionally. Thanks for that, by the way.
We didn't have you
love
on the
talking about
finale. What did you think of the finale, since you weren't on that episode?
I had overall, I loved it. I had a lot of logical problems. You guys pointed out a lot of them. I recorded the flip side on Wednesday about it, and then I listened to your show on Thursday, and I was like, well, shit, I wish I would have gotten this thing out sooner, because now it just seems like I'm ripping off a lot of what you guys said. But honestly, it still has my interest. I loved Pike's last bits. I liked Spock's last bits. I had a lot of trouble with some of the logic in the way it concluded. I know you guys asked some of these questions, but can we spoil, or is that for another?
Nah,
should we leave Discovery with Discovery?
It's been over a week, so I'd say go ahead.
Okay. Well, I mean, just like, again, like everything that you guys asked, if Leland and Control were completely defeated, why did they even have to go through the wormhole to the future? Oh, because canon. And the one thing that I did point out that you guys hadn't, every interview with every cast and crew member of that show, they give themselves like a soft tissue injury, working the words canon into every answer. Now we align with canon, syncing up with canon. Well, canon is now satisfied. And it's just like the C word is ever present, as if to say, shut, and you're going to have to drop the coin, shut the fuck up, you gatekeeping fan holes. We're in the 33rd century now. Are you happy?
Yeah.
So it's sort of everything that's surrounding that, the fan discontent, and I say fan in air quotes, the negativity that we've encountered as fans and we've talked about on Discovery has seeped into the web, and watching it, which kind of makes me sad, because I'm saying, okay, are they doing that to appease this contingent, or is this organic to the story, or blah, 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 blah. So it's it's still a show that has my interest. I think next season I will not read comment sections of things just so that I can enjoy it organically the way that I want to enjoy it and have only my ideas and maybe the ideas of people who I respect and like you guys, who always bring up like cogent points, not just bitching to bitch.
Yeah.
So I want to have a little bit more of an untainted experience with season 3 when it comes out. Other than that, like I feel like trial by pilot around here because Rick, you said you had a data point of 1 with riff tracks. The stuff that I've tried, I've seen 1 episode and I've just been underwhelmed or actively disliked it. I know we mentioned Twilight Zone earlier. I saw the Terror at 30,000 feet and I was intrigued as hell with the whole podcast angle of it. The fact that the MP3 player he had looked like something from the 70s. And it just a weird mishmash of different elements. Unfortunately, it was a story in search of an ending, and they obviously did not know how to end it. So it just had this stupid ending that was tacked on, and I haven't really felt the need or had the real time to return to it, even though I love the Twilight Zone. Unlike you, Rick, I like both the Twilight Zone and the Outer Limits, but as a kid watching that stuff on the Great Sunday Wasteland or, midnights on Channel 11 here in New York, Twilight Zone was a lot easier to get into. The Outer Limits always had much more of a build-up. You needed to invest a lot more mental energy in the Outer Limits in order for the payoff at the end, because it was an hour long. Twilight Zone, they usually had to get to the premise of the story within the twist. You needed to get to the twist so that Serling could introduce it and do his whole Twilight Zone jazz, and then it would play out. Sometimes, like you said, Rick, it was, some jerk running through town saying, "Hey, everybody, where'd you go? Where is everyone?" I think that was the name of the first episode. Where is everyone? And yeah, that could get annoying, but I found a lot of times that Twilight Zone, even though it had its formulas, was very satisfying to watch. So I was expecting at least that from this reboot, but I felt like it really failed to capture just that certain something that the original had. And that's not even on, to me, like that's not on Jordan Peele or the writers, because not even Rod Serling could recapture that certain something that the original had. If you watch Night Gallery, it's terrible. And it's all, it's Serling front and center doing a Serling thing, but it's just not a great show. I think the Twilight Zone was a thing of its day. And to try to recapture it, because it's an IP and it's a popular IP, they've tried multiple times to reboot it. Both on TV and modern day radio shows. They did one with Stacy Keach as the narrator. I used to listen to that when I was listening to radio shows late at night on AM when I was fixing my radios that I collect. It still was never the same. So I don't know how much is on the current showrunners or how much is on me. I just think that it lacks a certain magic. The other thing that I was so looking forward to, and I feel like Debbie Downer here, but I love the comic book Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. And I've been waiting for like the next volume to come out, because I always buy comics now. I don't buy the floppies. I buy when I buy them at all, I wait for the collections so that I can get like 6 issues at a time and more of a book experience. I was so jazzed that Netflix was doing a Chilling Adventures of Sabrina series. And I watched the first episode, loved the aesthetic, loved everything about the production value. But Kieran Shipka is just terrible. She's trying, God bless her. She's doing her best, but she's acting. And it comes through in every scene. And it just, after a while, I turned to my wife. I said, "Laura, I know you're watching this for me, but is this as bad as I think it is?" And she said, "No, it's worse." So I was like, all right. So Sally Draper needs to, maybe stay as a sideline character on Mad Men instead of leading her.
I thought that she was kind of over the top on Mad Men, but everybody on Mad Men was over the top. So it went with that. So I don't know. I haven't seen Sabrina, so I can't comment, but as far as the Twilight Zone, I did a YouTube video where I was talking about the first 2 episodes. I enjoyed the first 2 episodes, but after that, they weren't great. The one that came right after that, the 3rd episode, was one about a woman that had a video camera that when she rewound the tape and the camera, she would go back in time. And that one was okay, but it wasn't great. It wasn't creepy at all, like I would expect the Twilight Zone twist to be. Because there really wasn't a twist. That was it. She would rewind the camera, she'd go back in time. And then the one that came after that had Greg Kinnear in it as a sheriff that lived up in almost in the North Pole, like way up north. And it was bad. I think I fell asleep before the end of it. So, all right. Well, there is one other show I wanted to bring up. I don't know, Rick, I know you don't like zombie shows. If you liked the first season of The Walking Dead, then you'll probably like Black Summer on Netflix, because it's kind of what The Walking Dead was before they started just introducing characters that The Walking Dead started introducing characters that they killed off before you ever really got to know them. So then you got to a point where you didn't even bother getting to know characters because you didn't know how long they were going to stick around. And then they stick around for a while and you're like, well, I'm not investing in that character because I didn't,
Right.
I didn't get to know them earlier on. But The Walking Dead's gone on for a while and everything. But this is Black Summer. I watched the first 2 episodes. I think there's 6 or 8 episodes. And it just kind of starts out at outbreak level. You don't know what's causing this, and they're not the Romero type zombies. These are like the rage zombies. They run after you, and if you get attacked and you get bitten, you turn into a zombie immediately. It's not like you lay there for a couple hours and then you get up. You get up immediately and you start chasing people. And but it's like every episode focuses on a new group of people. So it's almost anthology, and I'm sure that as you watch it, it'll all come together towards the end of the season. But where I'm at right now, it's more of an anthology, so it's pretty good. I like it. So, all right, well, I think that's gonna do it for this episode. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Chris, thank you for joining us tonight.
I appreciate the opportunity. Anytime to talk to you guys is always welcome.
And let everybody know where they can find you.
Oh, I am a host of the Quantum Leap Podcast. You can find us at quantumleappodcast.com, or I think it's the Quantum Leap Pod. I don't know. Try both. The Quantum Leap Podcast or Quantum Leap. I think it's quantumleappodcast.com. And you can also find me on my website at deflipside.com. There's definitely no the in that. It's deflipside.com. You can hear my review of Discovery and just different audio things that I do for a local science fiction show here on Long Island called Destinies, the Voice of Science Fiction, which just celebrated its 36th anniversary on the air. So congratulations to Howard Margolin, the host of that show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and you can also find some of my fiction there and stuff like that. So that's deflipside.com.
All right. And Rick, thank you for being here as well.
My pleasure. Always fun to be on the show here, and always fun to talk to you guys too. You can find me at Starbase The Next Generation, or Open the Iris, which is a Stargate SG-1 podcast, or Infinite Diversity, which I will have more shows of that coming up real soon, I promise. I have one in the can. I just haven't edited it yet. At the Infinite Diversity Podcasting Network, and also here on Cosmic Potato on the various and sundry shows that will have me.
All right. And if all goes as planned, we will be doing a big spoiler-filled episode about Endgame next week. I don't know who will be on it yet, because I'm sure there will be a lot of people that want to be on it. We'll see what the Wi-Fi can handle. So make sure you look for that. It'll be on cosmicpotato.com, of course. And this is usually the point when I say you might hear John say next time, but John's not here. So until next time, we'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.
Ciao.